Are you seriously going to eat, you fat blibbity blabbity blob? I mean, some of you might be like,
continual.
why would I want to start this?
Sensitive. She's sensitive.
You are listening to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing podcast, where we share stories that are, you guessed it, unscripted.
That's the thing, this journey doesn't stop.
It doesn't really
right?
end. We have a general sense of the topic each episode, but really the whole point is just to show up and be authentic and let our inner child speak its truth. And I have continued to work through that story of constantly hearing, well, we don't want, got a hot dog on our hands. Yeah, guess what, Mr. Sabatsky, you do. So I'm so excited that you are here, and it is my hope that you hear yourself somewhere in the story so that way you can feel seen and heard as well. So let's start talking. Welcome to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing podcast. I am coming to you with take two because as I was editing last night's podcast that I recorded, I realized it looked like a 1950s Kung Fu movie where the words did not match the actor's mouth. And so praying that this time everything syncs up because it was not even salvageable. I'm like, I can't even watch this without going insane. And so I thought about just doing an audio file for it and then uploading it to YouTube with a still frame with the ridiculous facial expression. But like, you know what? Maybe I just needed to re-record this. And actually, I felt like that was confirmed the second I ended the podcast, even though I didn't know how terrible the syncing was until later. But oh my goodness, I received the exact message that I had talked about on the podcast. And God and the universe are like, yo, you know what you just recorded? Let's see if you can put your money where your mouth is and actually do what you say. And I was like, oh shit. So I think this is the whole reason that I needed to re-record this because I have to share this. And I will get into what the actual podcast is about, and I will take you back to everything that I talked about. Probably not at all. I'll channel a completely different message because that's usually what happens. But the podcast that I planned to get to and tried to record last night was all about, does this come with instructions? Life, all of these things, the plan, do we get instructions to this? Most times we don't. But the whole message, and spoiler alert, please stick around for this whole episode, was basically, we don't always get the whole manual. We don't always get the step-by-step guide to know what the end product is going to be. God and the universe don't play like that. They're like, I need you to trust me first, and then I will give you the next step. So, no joke. I hit stop on the record. I look at my phone, and I have a text message. And this text message is from my dear friend, Sarah, who was on the podcast. I will link her episode on here. Oh, she's just amazing. And her episode was so good. And she had worked with me in the past one-on-one. She had come out to Sedona for me and Zoe's first retreat out there. And then she helped us with the second retreat that we hosted. And she was kind of just doing all the behind the scenes stuff and was just such a grounded energy and presence. And she added so much value to that retreat just by her presence alone. So I was like, oh, Sarah, like I haven't heard from you in a while. So I get a text message from her. It says, if I happen to be taking a last minute trip to Sedona this week and I happen to have a house with an extra bedroom, is there any chance you'd make a crazy move and book a plane ticket to use said room? And oh my gosh, if there is anything I have learned about pay attention to the first feeling and like, how does your body feel? How does your body respond? Because that's your answer. It was oh, hell yes. And then, a couple of seconds later, my ego was like, well, Tami, how are you going to da-da-da-da-da? But I knew I felt so deeply like, hell yes, I need this. Oh my gosh, I even started crying at the thought of it because here's the thing. God and the universe had already cleared my schedule. When I went in to put my F45 schedule in my calendar, I was like, whoa, why is this week so light? I have literally 3 classes that I coach this week. That has never happened in 6 months. I'm usually coaching some morning in there. But it just so happens that the other trainer that I tend to tag team with had off from her other job, actually as a flight attendant. And so then she had those hours. And originally I was thinking like, oh man, like I was kind of bummed because I really, truly enjoy coaching. And then I was like, oh, wait, I think this was all divinely planned because I am rolling out the Nourished Woman Within in a few weeks. It's like, well, wasn't that nice of God and the universe to clear my schedule for me so that I could really dedicate this week to that work? and not have to spend as much time and energy at F45 and let the other amazing coaches do their wondrous work. So I was already preparing for this week to just be locked in, laser focused on that program. And then she sends me that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't even need to like clear my schedule and find a bunch of coverage. The only class I needed covered was my noon class on Wednesday because we're flying out that afternoon. But everything else, I'm just coaching a noon class on Monday and I'm coaching one class on Tuesday night. So I was like, whoa, this is weird. This is weird. And then I messaged my sister who was just in town to help me out because we had our Christmas party. I just sent her a screenshot of Sarah's text and she calls me immediately and she's like, I can easily come to Madison. I can watch your kids. So you and Andy don't have to switch up your schedule at all. I can take your shifts and easy breezy. Nothing has to change. And she's like, I do not want that to be a reason that you don't go. So I was like, holy crap. So I call up Andy. I'm like, hey, I think I might be doing this. Is this okay with you? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. Go do it. So I was like, oh my gosh, there's literally like nothing holding me back except, and here's where it gets real funny, except that the flight is $768 to get out there. I was like, ooh, that hurts. That hurts. Especially because there is another flight that was like 400 something, but then I'm not on the same flight as Sarah. And so then I would have to get my own rental car. So it's basically a wash. I'm like, you know what? Just eat it and see it as convenience and know that you are worthy of this investment because girl, you have not taken any time off. Probably since I went to Mexico this time in 2024. Like I have not taken time off. I have not gotten away. And I don't even know if I've gotten away for like a weekend of fun because obviously everything started with F45 at the end of 2024. And so that has just kind of consumed all of 2025. And so there just hasn't been any letting off the gas. So I was like, oh my gosh, like this is absolutely supposed to happen. And what's funny is that I immediately, I'm thinking about this money and where am I going to get this money? And sure, I can pull from what I have, but I also want to be responsible because I'm single mom paying rent and just like, oh yeah, let me just buy this ticket to Sedona. I don't live like that yet. But then I'm like, here I am immediately stressing about money, right? And I was like, well, hold up. What if I also say, okay, God in the universe, if you want this to happen and this is where you are calling me and this is my next step, let's see how good this can get. And how about you show me the how? So, maybe it was just an idea or a download or like, where could you pull this money from? And then I woke up in the middle of the night, wide awake, and I was like, oh man, you're good. You're real good. So also on last night's podcast, I talked about how we are in the final weeks of the year of the snake, right? It is the last final shedding. Ooh. And I just saw something last night is that right before a snake dies, like that's when it's most fierce and that's when it really attacks. And that's just hit me just now. I remember seeing that and it didn't dawn on me, maybe because I saw it before this whole thing happened. But now it's really hitting me because I realized it this morning and that money is out there and that money has been there for over 3 to 4 years. And it reflects a time when I did not value myself and my worth because I wanted to help people and I didn't ever want money to be a barrier. I took on the burden for people. I took on the burden and created these outrageously long payment plans for programs that ended in 2021 and 2022, that there's still these outstanding balances. And it was a reflection of my worth. I did this. It is no fault to those people. I allowed that to happen and I let it go on. My avoidance, ignorance is bliss. I'm going to avoid this, but yet it was eating at me and it's been eating at me this whole time. And actually started working with my little money manager who was like, no, this is not happening. And this was in 2023 when we tried to clean this up. In 2024, we tried to clean this up. And there were still some outstanding balances that were out there. And I was just hoping it would go away, that I could just forget about it. I could just bless and release. And this felt like that snake, that last little bit where it's like, no, you're not, Tami. You want to go to Arizona and you want that money, you go and get what is yours. You know your worth and value now. And you are not just going to let this slide because it's going to eat at you for the rest of your life. And I was like, oh. So before I sat down to record the podcast, I sent out the messages of, please pay this outstanding balance. I can no longer carry this burden. This was never my burden to carry. That was my people pleaser who said, I'll carry this for you. I'm sure you do have a credit card, but I'll carry this for you. Even though that whole time I had just moved out, I had just become a single mom of 2. I had no reliable income, but I will take this burden. That's how messed up my people pleaser was. I couldn't even look out for myself, knowing that it wasn't just me. It was me and my kids. That's the trouble my ego got me into. And those people, loving, amazing people, were my test and have continued to be my test. Like, are you going to let this slide? Or are you going to say, no, I provided a service and I am worthy of payment for said service? And man, this has been that worthiness wound, right? Here we are, final weeks of the snake. It's like, are you done with this wound? Yeah, I am. And I will never put myself in that situation ever again because I know my value, I know my worth. And I know those people did too. And their story is whatever their story is. And I don't harbor any ill will. And I don't want to have any negative energy. I don't want to carry that karma. I don't want them to either. And so it's like, we need to clear this energy. We need to clear this karma so everyone can move on with better energy. But I cannot take this energy into this new energetic new year. Because I also talked last night about this year of the horse and that it is taking off running with or without you. And I was like, I'm getting on that horse and I am riding that damn thing. But because this whole podcast debacle happened, it was like, you said that, Tami, but yet you are still dragging this one thing that you are conveniently forgetting about and hoping that it would just go away. But if you want to ride that horse and giddy up with this fire horse energy, you are not taking this with you. You are not taking this with you because you would be dragging old energy, old wounds into this next energetic new year, and we are cleaning this up. And this trip to Sedona is your way to do it. If you want to get out there and see what gifts and amazing things come from that experience, you need to clean up this wound once and for all. I was like, shit. Oh, because here's the thing, and this is why I got so emotional about Sedona. And I don't know if I've ever shared this full story on here. But through the supplement company that I was working with, there was an opportunity to earn a trip to Sedona back in 2017. And the week that you could qualify for it was May 22nd. And I know that date because I got all geared up. It's Monday. I'm ready to go. I'm fired up. I'm gonna earn this trip. And then that Wednesday on the 24th, we got the call that my father-in-law ended his life. And I just remember, dropping to my knees and sobbing like you see in the movies, like, this isn't real. And so obviously that goal was gone. Like, wasn't even a blink on the radar. Wasn't even thinking about that. Wasn't even sad about it. And so all that passes, all that goes. And then it was in June, and it was actually Father's Day weekend where they had released the mocha flavored shake or something like that. And it was a big deal, and you could earn extra commission and all this stuff when shakes came out. And so I already knew I couldn't qualify for this trip, but things were happening that week that I couldn't even make sense of. And I was like, whoa, all these things were falling into place. But again, I knew I had detached from the outcome because I didn't even think it was possible. And so I was still putting in that energy for it to just hit the financial goal aspect, knowing that the trip wasn't even an option. And then literally with probably 4 minutes to spare on Sunday night at 11:56 or whatever it was, I put in that final order that helped me reach that bonus. And I remember even thinking that weekend, like, it's Father's Day weekend. It's the first Father's Day without his father. But it just so happened that his brother was in town that weekend, and that was exactly who he needed to spend that time with. And so I was able to focus on hitting this goal, which I thought was just a financial goal. Well, it turns out that one of my mentors knew all about this. She talked to the women who were hosting this event, and not only did they make an exception for me, they paid for my ticket out to Sedona. And so Sedona has always held such a special place in my heart because I felt so connected to my father-in-law out there. And that was a huge catalyst to my spiritual awakening and getting to experience so much of that out in Sedona. Like, I can't even tell you the energy that's out there. And that's why we've hosted retreats out there and why we will continue to host retreats out there, because that energy is so healing. And he sent me there. I know he did. So when I got that text message from Sarah to go back out to Sedona to work on this program that I have been working on for all of these years to integrate and wait for the perfect time when this was the week I was going to be able to focus on it. And what better place to focus on it than out in Sedona and be back in that energy and create something so beautiful and so lasting. Just, I can't even make this stuff up. And it's the energy of the new moon that we just had yesterday. This Capricorn energy where things are slow, things are steady, things are grounded. It's about long-term results. And that's literally what this whole journey has been, was getting to this point. And what a full circle moment to give birth to this program back out in Sedona. I just can't. And so this goes right into the message that I was trying to send yesterday, is you don't always know the full plan. You don't get the guidebook, the manuscript, the instructions. What you have to trust in that when you take inspired action and when you are given opportunities, I could have easily let my ego shut this down. And I don't know if that money will come through today, but I had to do it, right? I at least had to send the messages, but I had to trust that this is an opportunity and a gift that was given to me. But what am I going to do with that gift? And that is what the message was, is we receive the next steps all the time, but we ignore them, or we let our ego talk us out of them because of the money, because of the inconvenience, because it would require change, because of whatever excuse your ego comes up with. And then God and the universe are like, I gave you the next instruction, but you didn't take it because you didn't trust, because you couldn't see the final product, which means that you don't actually fully trust in us to provide for you and to keep giving you the next step. There are some things in life that, yes, it's great to have an instruction manual. It's great to have a plan. But when it comes to following your soul's true purpose and living this authentic and genuine and fulfilling life, it doesn't work like that. It requires an insane amount of courage and trust. And here I am having to practice what I preach, and just gonna up and go to Sedona because I know I'm being called there. I can feel it. And it wasn't even a doubt in my mind if I didn't go. Like, I have to do this. I have to make this work. And if me taking one inspired action unveils the next piece of the puzzle, and that maybe those outstanding payments come through, or God and the universe show up with some other form of money, or maybe I don't see that reward until after the fact. But I have to trust that, hey, you make this investment now, we'll pay you back later, tenfold. And that has literally been the journey these last few years, is like, I am trusting as I am here living on my savings that someday you're going to come back and say, like, thank you for your efforts, Tami. Thank you for helping, even though you have been back here doing this work, trusting, struggling, whatever you want to call it, because you have had that kind of trust and faith. And so, man, when I tell you that there isn't anything that I am talking about and teaching and coaching or channeling that I haven't done or been put through, oh man, it's real. It's real. And that is integration. That is embodiment. And if this isn't like the final test of that, I don't know what is. That it is absolutely saying, okay, this is what you literally just recorded a podcast on. Are you willing to do it for yourself? Despite all the reasons why you shouldn't. Why this might not be a smart financial investment when maybe it'll end up being the best financial investment I ever made. That's the energy I'm putting into it. And I will figure this out. Because I always will. Because I do trust that I wouldn't be given this next step and this next opportunity if it wasn't meant to lead to the next awesome, amazing thing. And I just know to be back in that energy and to be creating and actually having some one-on-one sessions with some of the women that have already signed up. I'll be out there doing them. I'm like, oh man, like I can already feel that. I already know what my energy is like when I'm out there. But I've never been this version of me out there. The last time I was out there was November of 2024. I'm a completely different person than I was then. Because I have fully integrated those things and I hadn't done that at that point yet. I had made a lot of progress and done a lot of healing to lead those groups. But I knew the reason that we had held off in this last year was because Zoe and I had more healing to do. And sure enough, we did. More healing to do, but it was more so about integration. Like, I need you to fully integrate this stuff. I need you to heal within your nervous system. I need you to feel safe energetically, to be ready to receive the things that are coming and to be able to hold space for these women who are coming to you for help and guidance. Or anyone for that matter, if you're listening to the podcast, male, female, whatever. I need to be able to create the capacity to hold that within myself. And again, I just can't think of any better place to do that than Sedona. And so I'm hoping to record the next episode out there. So stay tuned for that because that would be episode 99. And then I have something really, really special planned for the 100th episode, which also came about after the fact last night, because even at the end of last night's podcast, I had put it out there to you guys like, what do you want for the last episode? And then that download came through right afterwards. Like, okay, so hopefully everything is still in motion for that 100th episode. But anyway, wow. It's not even been 12 hours yet. And I'm just like, whoa, what just happened? So again, talk about Year of the Snake and this momentum building for this fire horse energy. Like, it is happening. It is happening, and is it going to take off with or without you? What else do you need to release? I was just given my final release. You have to clean this worthiness wound up once and for all, Tami. And it felt good to send those messages in this new energy. And again, to detach from the outcome, but knowing that I can send these. I know my value. I know my worth. And I will never put myself in that situation ever again where I doubt that for a second, because that was a hard lesson to learn over these years. But I hope that I finally passed this test because it has been a freaking hard one. But anyway, thinking about the areas in your life where you need to surrender that full game plan and just be like, I don't know what the next step is either. I just need to take the next step that feels good. And again, every time I'm going to release the attachment to this outcome, and I'm just going to take inspired action. And I'm going to share this story, and I know he's a faithful listener, but this just happened with one of my good buddies from the gym who took this new job a year or so ago, thought it was going to be all sunshine and rainbows and this amazing opportunity and more money and all these things. And the more you get into a company or the more you get into a relationship, the more that other person can't hide who they truly are. Or all of the cracks and things start to be exposed within this company or within this person. You start to see their wounds and you're like, whoa. And that happened. It's like, this is not what I signed up for. And especially when this person is so inspiring, so impactful, knows how to connect with people, but just feeling like he was being put in this box and not able to spread his wings, work his magic, step into his gifts, and just being put in this little box like, oh, this is how we do things because this is how it's always been done. And I've been telling him for the longest time, like, dude, it's only a matter of time. And and it's so funny because he's starting to get this whole energy thing and that, like, you can deny it all you want, but it is absolutely happening to you. Well, sure enough, he took some inspired action to just make a phone call, just to see what's out there, just to inquire. And what do you know? That may lead to something. There was interest, like, oh my gosh, we would love to have you. Let's continue this conversation. And you know what he said? That after that phone call, even though nothing was promised, nothing was worked out, it was just a conversation, he said, I felt free. I felt free. There was no plan, there's no guarantee, but just that thought of hope was so freeing, and you could feel the shift in his energy right when he said that. I could just felt free. And then having a follow-up conversation and this excitement starting to brew up again, which I haven't seen in months. It just took one conversation to be like, you know what? Maybe I don't need to blow up everything over here yet, but what if I took one inspired action and just allowed myself to get curious and pursued that curiosity to see what could happen, to send that text, to send the email, to have that conversation, to put it out there in the universe. What if you did that with a job or someone that's like, you know what, I have always loved this company. I love what you stand for. If there's ever an opportunity, let me know. Or there's someone that you want to send that text to, like, you know what, there's this energy there. I don't know what it's about, but I'm just putting it out there. Like, what if we just did that? You never know. And this just happened at the restaurant on Saturday night. We were at Everly, shout out. They're not sponsoring this, but they should, because I eat there like all the time. So maybe I'll send this to them. Like, I don't know how you don't have my picture on the wall yet, but I am a very frequent flyer. Anyway, so we're at Everly and Arlo's looking at the kid menu and he sees scrambled eggs and toast, and that's what he wants. And I was like, oh, sweet. And then I was like, oh, wait, buddy, it says just available at brunch and lunch. And you just see his face and like his energy, like, oh man, like that's what I really wanted. And I was like, hey, you know what? Why don't we just ask? Why don't we just ask? If we don't ask, the answer is obviously no. But if we ask, maybe they'll say, yeah, sure. So let's just have a backup plan just in case, but let's ask anyway. And so we did. And what do you know? She's like, oh my gosh, we could totally do that. She's like, we just can't do the fingerling potatoes, so it would have to be French fries, which is exactly what he wanted anyway. So they did that for him. And I just looked at him and was like, Arlo. And of course, you know, mom's got to like really nail in this life metaphor and this life lesson, right? It's like, you know what just happened, right? If you wouldn't have asked, there was no chance of you getting those eggs. But you asked, released the outcome, and just said, whatever happens, happens. And what do you know? And it actually was exactly what you wanted. So another example of one, maybe ask and you shall receive. It could turn out better than you even imagined. But if you never ask, if you never put it out there, the answer is always going to be no. The doors are always going to feel shut. You're never going to know if there was an actual connection with this person or if there was an actual opportunity here at work, because maybe they could have created a position for you. But if you don't ever put it out there because you're too afraid of rejection, the answer is always going to be no. So that also requires an insane amount of courage and trust. But if you were to tap into your inner child, they just ask for things. They're not worried about fear of rejection or judgment or whatever. They just ask, right? This is what I want. And we could all tap back into that energy. Your inner child doesn't worry about that. Your highest self doesn't worry about those things. That is your ego straight up trying to protect you. Protect little you from that fear. But if you can get to little you, they're like, I'm not worried about that. If I get the scrambled eggs, whatever. But yeah, let's ask for it. Yeah, take this trip to Sedona. We'll figure out the rest later. And yeah, there's a fine line with how far you swing the pendulum in terms of responsibility. I understand that. But truly, that's what's available to us. Is that true, deep knowing? But sometimes we have to peel back the layers to get to it because our ego has piled on so many layers of protection that we don't even know what feels true for us anymore. And so when it comes to finding that truth within and that deep knowing, like, I've got to go to Sedona, there is no doubt about it. I didn't even let ego step a foot in the door. It wanted to with the whole money thing. And I was like, nope. I felt it. I was like, nope. If I'm supposed to be there, God and the universe will provide. They will help me find a way. But that was also the other lesson is normally like, I will take that on. Like, okay, you gave me this cool opportunity and now I will figure it out. Now I will take that on again. It'll be my burden again, where I was like, or can I stay open to what they also want to show me with this? So hopefully when I report back, let's all manifest that, please. Throw some good juju my way. And that you found this really cool way of how my trip was funded. But yeah, trying to tap into what is that feeling. And that is some of the work that we're going to be doing in the Nourished Woman Within, is how do you find that internal voice again, that knowing? How do you listen to your body again? Because it's gotten so loud with all of the voices of our ego. And this was so true and so clear on one of the foundation calls that I had with one of the women who was in this program, and that the things that her ego was telling her about food were not actually true and were not actually honoring her body. And it created such an anxious feeling within her body around food. And when it came time to look at the meal plan, it was an easy fix. From a dietitian perspective, it was like, oh, this is all we got to do here. We got to add something here. We got to tweak this there. Boom, done. Here's your meal plan. Go get her. But doing this work that I do now with inner child work and ego and intuition and love and kindness for our body was like, whoa, we are not there yet. So for me to just throw that on would have been completely ignoring the elephant in the room, is that she does not feel safe around food. That her ego is like, nope, let's hold off as long as we can, because once you start, you're not going to be able to stop. You can't trust yourself. When her body's like, I'm just telling you that I'm hungry and that I actually just need nourishment. And her inner child saying that too, like, I'm truly hungry. Can you just feed me? Can you just nourish me? And ego's like, nope, don't trust it. You won't be able to stop. Once we start, you can't stop. And there's actually some food science behind that. It's not just our fault, our ego's fault. But I was like, I can't start there. I can't start adding in meals and snacks with this woman when she doesn't even feel safe around food, because it feels like once I start, the floodgates are going to open. We have to start there. We have to create some sense of safety within her body first and build this relationship of trust back with her body. And I've shared this story on here before. I had to do that same thing with carbs. Is that I knew my body was sending me a signal like, hey, I'm depleted, girl. You're working out more, you're lifting heavier. And this was a few years ago when I completely flipped my meal plan on its head. I wasn't following a meal plan at that time. I had things dialed in pretty well, but I was like, maybe I need to switch that. But when I had to switch to eating like 40-45% carbs, my ego freaked out. And here I thought I had healed my relationship with food. I was like, oh shit, I apparently just put a Band-Aid on it. I found other ways around it where my ego was like, oh, we don't have to deal with that. We'll just do this and we'll make her think that. But then when it came time to actually do it, it was like, huh. And I had to trust. I remember saying, I'm like, okay, body, I will trust you. I will give you a month to see how this feels. I will track it. I will honor you. I will pay attention. I will use this as information. And oh my gosh, it was like someone flipped a switch on. And all of a sudden my body just lit up and I was like, oh, I just needed carbs this whole time? Whoa. And my body composition changed. The pictures that I would take every 16 weeks, it was like, holy shit, noticeable. And I was like, wow, carbs really do a body good. But how many of us have fear around that still? We don't trust our body to eat carbs. She didn't trust herself to have an afternoon snack when that could completely change the course of the rest of the evening, where she then really gets into trouble. And ego really starts sending all kinds of emotional numbing cues. So we have to start there. And that is no matter what you are doing. If you're looking at an instruction manual, that needs to be the first step. How can you create safety within your body for these changes? Because you will always go back to default. And that's why we go back to old habits. It's what we know. Walking on eggshells was my baseline for so many years. So being calm and at peace feels uncomfortable. It did anyway. And it took a long time to get to this place where that now feels good. And when I start to not feel that way, I catch it right away. And I can really tell when I'm walking on eggshells, like, nope, not doing that. I have created a new sense of safety and stability within myself, within my body, in that I fully trust what my body tells me. So when it says, go to Sedona, and you have this full emotional, visceral response, you go, you listen. But it took me a long time to trust that again because I had been so disconnected from my intuition. I would always want to seek outside validation. Like, well, do you think I should go? Do you think I should do this? Is this a good idea? And so then again, I'm handing all of that over to other people who have no real true investment in me and my well-being and my soul's journey and purpose. They're going to project whatever their story is onto me and give me advice from their perspective. Because not a lot of people would choose to live the life that I have. It may look like fun on the outside, but there is very little sense of stability within my life right now, besides what I have within myself. And that's probably the only reason I can be out here doing these things and knowing that someday it's going to pay off and having that trust is because I have trust within myself and within what God and the universe have in store for me. But if I don't have that within myself, it's going to reflect everywhere else. And so I'm starting to see things settling down within my life. Things with F45 getting more stable, having this program come into fruition. Okay, we're coming on 2 years within this podcast. I know that there's things that I need to do with this. Like, okay, I'm getting in this grounded, more settled energy. Again, all Capricorn energy. Slow, stable, foundational. I'm there now, and I'm going to seize that opportunity now, seize this energy now. And the problem with outside validation is not only does it disconnect us from our intuition and make us second guess our true knowing, but it can also rob you of joy. And this happened with Aria a few weeks ago. She gets in the car after picking her up from volleyball. She's like, oh my gosh, Mom, I had this amazing hit. You wouldn't believe it. It was my best hit ever. And da da da. She's going on and on about it. And I'm like, this is awesome. I was very excited. It was very cool to see her in that energy. And then she goes, I don't know if my coach saw it though. And I was like, well, what does that matter? Well, he's going to put it in, their little sports app because he usually gives shout outs and all this stuff. And she wanted her shout out. So she wanted to make sure he saw it. She wanted her friends to see it. And I was like, okay, but what if he didn't? Does that have to take away from the fact that you felt awesome about it? Because I asked her, like, how did you feel about it? She's like, oh, it was awesome. It was my best hit ever. It felt so good. Like, okay, lock that feeling in. And anything that happens beyond that is just a cherry on top. If he notices, cherry on top. If you get the shout out, cherry on top. But it does not diminish how awesome you feel about it right now. Do not let it take away from your joy. It should add to it. Because yes, outside validation feels good. No one is going to deny that. But if not receiving it takes away from the joy that you felt, then you are outsourcing your joy. And that is not okay. So how can you feel good and confident? Like, I feel great about what just happened. Anything that comes from that, cherry on top. I was recently nominated for an Athena Award. And so I'm a nominee. I'm like, awesome, great. Like, I'm going to sit in that energy and feel that and be proud of myself for that. But I have completely detached from that outcome. It does not matter if I win that award at all right now. And that, yes, it certainly feels good to be recognized. But I know the work that I'm doing. I know the impact that I'm making and will make. So this nomination was like a really awesome cherry on top. Because yeah, sometimes it gets other people's attention. It's like, oh, wow, yeah, good job, Tami. When maybe before, I'm doing all this stuff. I've been doing all this stuff. And if I were to do it for the applause, then I'm not doing it in alignment. And that has been the difference. And that all these things that I have been doing, it is because it's been in alignment. I haven't been doing it for applause. So yeah, I don't have 1 million viewers and subscribers on this channel, on these podcasts. But I'm doing it because it's in alignment with what feels true and right for me. And will someday maybe that applause come and that sponsorships and monetization and all those things will come? I hope so. But I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it because it's in alignment with my soul's purpose. And so if I win, awesome, great. If not, awesome, great. And so looking at your areas of your life where you're maybe still outsourcing that. Where are you outsourcing your joy and looking for outside validation? Or asking for approval? Or waiting for someone else to give you the instructions on what to do next? When everything that you have is within you, that is why the name of that freaking program is Nourished One Within. That was the download, is within. Everything is within. You have to stop searching outside of yourself for that next answer, that next instruction. It comes from within. That information is downloaded within us, channeled within us, but we have to get quiet enough to hear it. It's really hard to read through the instruction manual when you've got all these voices and people trying to tell you how to do it. And like, no, you got to play it this way. You ever try to get a board game out and you're trying to read the instructions, but everyone who's already played it is trying to be like, well, you got to do this. And then and you're like, just shut up. Let me just read the instructions. I know that has probably happened to some of you. And that's kind of what you need to do. You just need to silence the noise around you and sit down and get quiet and listen. Because I guarantee you, those downloads are coming to you too, or they're trying to, just like they do for me. I'm not some magical sorcerer. I just allow these messages to come through. I said, like, I am an open channel. Show me what's next. And things keep coming. But if you have denied that, like, no, this is just the job I'm in. This is just the relationship I'm in. This is just how it always is. You block that. If you're never getting quiet and you're not taking time to get quiet with yourself and with your soul, they're like, I'm trying to give these messages to you. It was like the invitation episode. Those invitations are all around us all the time, but we're missing them. And most of the time, it's because we're just not taking any time to be quiet with ourselves, within ourselves, and to start to trust that quiet voice within. We were actually talking about that outside of the sauna with my two buddies named Mark, Sauna Mark, Marky Mark, and Mark Bendorf, who's been on the podcast as well. Oh, amazing story. I love that man. But we were talking about that. Like, do you hear the voices in different tones or does it all sound the same? And for me, it all sounds the same. And so you have to learn how to discern what is ego talking, what is your highest self, when is your inner child, when your intuition. And if you identify from more of the religious aspect, some people would say, like, when is God speaking to you and when is the devil on your shoulder? Feeding you those lines, like, yeah, you should do that. You should eat that. You deserve that. And I've talked about this actually with episode with Karen before, and she'll be back on here to share her updates. I will never forget a session with her when we were talking about that voice of ego, and that when we tend to overeat and indulge, we think it's like, oh, you can't believe you ate that, you fat, blah, blah, blah. But she kind of gave me this aha moment, was that sometimes your ego can sound really loving and really nurturing. Be like, oh, you should eat that cookie, sweetie. You had a tough day today. When really, what you need to do is feel your damn feelings and process the emotion from the day and then move on through it, rather than trying to numb it with food. But it's like, ooh, ego is sneaky. So you have to learn how to quiet that noise around you so those instructions can be clear, because they are coming. They are there for each and every one of us. And for my buddy, it was just the next step was just pick up the phone and call this contact and just have a conversation. You don't need to know what comes next. It's not that before he picked up the phone, he had to see his job, how it was exactly going to be laid out, how this would all look, what was the compensation plan, what is the job description before he even picked up the phone. That's not how it works, but that's oftentimes how our energy is. I can't take that first step until I know what that's going to look like and be like. God, you're just like, I'm sorry, it just doesn't work like that. I need you to just pick up the phone. We'll start there. Okay? Okay. So props to you, buddy. I'm excited for you. Oh, my goodness. So I did want to share, there are other times where instructions can be really, really helpful. And this actually was what prompted the whole topic of this episode, was a conversation I had with my friend Deb. If you're listening, shout out to you. I love you. And we were talking about workouts and how for so many years when I've been at this previous gym, I would do workouts on my own. Actually, when I first started, I was following a plan that a friend created. And oddly enough, I was getting injured quite often because I wasn't listening to my body. And then when we kind of all parted ways and started doing our own thing, I started lifting more intuitively, I said, which meant I don't have a plan. And I never walked into the plan. I knew Mondays were back and buys. I knew Tuesdays were quads. I knew Wednesdays were shoulders and core. Thursdays were glutes and hammies. And Fridays was chest and tries, whatever. That was my plan. That was literally all I had planned. I would walk in there and I would figure it out as I go. And I have obviously an exercise background. So I felt like I did a pretty decent job of constructing a workout. And I was always trying to base it on how I feel. Like if I wasn't fully rested, like I'm still showing up. I'm still consistent. My effort on those days might look different, but I'm consistently there. And while I certainly had made some gains and I was feeling strong and all of those things, I hadn't really noticed changes within my lower body. Strong, yes. And what was interesting is making this shift to F45, and this isn't a plug for them, but I guess it is that in the last 6 months, I have noticed changes within my body that I haven't ever noticed. And my lower body was always the area of insecurity for me. And I felt like if anyone ever saw my lower body, they'd be like, oh, there it is. See, she's not perfect. Look, there's cellulite on her legs and stuff. Like, oh, sure, she's got great arms and abs, but look at that cellulite. Ha 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 ha. I mean, that's literally what my ego would say to me. Body dysmorphia is a real bitch. And she still lurks once in a while at me like, are you chiseled enough, Tami? Like, it's no joke. I have to keep it in check constantly. But my lower body has always been that. I would be the friend wearing pants all the time. I wore pants in Spain when it was like 115 degrees. I actually have a picture that everyone else is in shorts and I'm there with pants on. I didn't start wearing shorts until a few years ago. But even then, as much as I wanted to embrace the energy of feeling confident in my legs, I kind of had to fake it till I made it. And I don't know if I had fully had made it. I was just really trying to be there and be in that energy. And in the last 6 months, I'm like, holy crap, like I could actually see the muscle in my leg now. And I feel like there's shape now. Because I mean, I grew up in the Kate Moss era where it was like shrink wrap your butt so it's smaller and be the smallest you can be because your worth is dependent on how much you weigh. And that's not the way it is anymore, right? Like there are so many women and girls working on their booties now in the gym. I'm like, man, if I could have grown up in that era, damn. And I would never forget when I went into my internship in Georgia. It was like a very different culture down there. And that was the first time I felt like appreciated for my curves. And I was like, I should live here. I feel much better about myself here. But anyway, I was like, oh my gosh. Because the thing is at F45, there's a plan. Not my plan. F45, they're a franchise. They're all over the world. They have their workouts planned for an entire year. And their phases, they're built on each other. Right now, we're in a base phase. Then it's going to build into the build phase. And then it goes into a peak phase. And then that repeats. And so every 4 weeks, they're changing something. They're tweaking something. It's a different angle. It's a different lunge. And those are things that I wasn't doing before because I didn't have a plan. So I couldn't see predictable results. I was just in there winging it. And did I get what I need out of it energetically? And the fact that I just found joy in moving and exercising and challenging myself? Yes, absolutely. But I was like, holy crap. Like I can see a noticeable difference in the shape of my legs now and the muscularity of my legs now. And then I have lost some fat around my legs now. Like, whoa, not doing anything different. I'm actually working out less. It is absolutely a quality versus quantity thing. Because a lot of you know I had spent several hours at the gym and obviously not all working out. There's a lot of chitter chatter there. But at F45, it's 45 minutes. It's an efficient workout. It's hitting all the things that I wasn't doing on my own because I hate lunges. But now I'm doing forward lunges, reverse lunges, lateral lunges. And I don't hate them so much anymore because I'm actually getting stronger at the thing that I was avoiding. That was actually, who would have guessed, been the thing that probably helped shape my legs. But without that plan, I wasn't getting consistent results. And so there are certain areas that creating a recipe. If you don't follow the recipe, you can't necessarily get predictable results. But there are some people who don't want to follow a recipe. They're better intuitively cooking. They want to add their own flavors and seasonings and things. And so there's a place for all of that depending on what it is that you want. If you want it to turn out exactly like great grandma's banana bread, then you better follow her recipe. If you want to take a little twist on that, then yeah, you're not going to get the same results. So don't expect it to taste like grandma's when you change 3 ingredients. And so there are areas in life, but so many things don't come with a manual. Parenting doesn't come with a manual. As soon as you think you got your kid figured out, now they're teething, now they're going through a growth spurt, now whatever, and now my daughter's in middle school. Like, what? No one gave me a manual for this. No one gave me a manual for marriage and to know how much that was going to change. And when you have a kid, how much that dynamic changes. No one gave me a manual for that and how our childhood wounds were going to eventually trigger each other and how to heal that and work through that. No one gave me a manual for what divorce looks like and how to help your kids with that, how to support yourself. There was no manual for that. You just have to continue to find trust in your higher power and know that whatever is being presented to you is an opportunity for you to go within and find out what is true for you. And can you honor that? What are you going to do with this next piece that I give you, Tami? What are you going to do with it? Because so many of you have been given the next step, the next clue, the next idea, and you're sitting on it. You're sitting on it. And God's like, I can't give you the next one until you take action on the one I already gave you. You've had this idea for years. You're sitting on it, doing nothing with it. And you want the next step? You want it all laid out? Sorry. So this is about taking radical ownership and saying, I will take that next inspired action. I will go within and listen, find that trust within myself, and that I'm being guided for a reason. I don't feel like this Sedona trip was a trick, right? I can trust that. But what is it that you are sitting on that you haven't taken the next step because you can't quite see it yet? And oh my gosh, isn't today, as I'm recording this, is Martin Luther King Day. And his famous quote, faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. Let me repeat that again in honor of this man and the work that he did. Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. That is what this is all about. Find that faith and trust within. And oh my gosh, it's 11:11. Boom! Confirmation. Here we go. I'm wrapping it up on that note. See, I feel like this episode was 10,000 times better than the one I recorded last night. So it's all meant to be again. So thank you for hanging with me through this wild, emotional podcast that it was. And once again, if the Nourished Woman Within is calling to you, there is space for you there. And even though it's not an exact roadmap and instruction manual, I am your guide. And I am your guide through this process of finding trust again within your body and healing that relationship with your body, with food, with your inner child. So that way you can tap into that woman within who wants to be fully expressed and fully living her life in every aspect of who she is and who she's always been. We just needed to go find her. And so if that is you, we are starting in a few weeks, and I'm going out in Sedona and channeling all of that energy and bringing it back and infusing every aspect of that into that program. So if you want to be a part of that, the link is in the comments below. You can still use the code Tami Talks. Again, I'm only posting that within the episode. No one else knows about that unless you're listening. You can still use that to get the $250 off. So I cannot wait to see who joins us. We already have such an amazing group of women that are joining us, and I cannot wait to serve in this space again. So thank you all for pressing play. Please be sure to do something for your inner child. Take that inspired action. Lean on their trust. Borrow their trust and faith and adventurous spirit when you take that next step, because they have that. They want that for you. So tap into that for them and have an awesome and amazing week. And hopefully I'm recording the next episode from Sedona. Until then, take care.